You're listening to The Big Album Show with Paul Dillon and Dan O'Neill.
Hello and welcome to the latest edition of The Big Album Show with me, Paul Dillon.
And me, Dan O'Neill.
Tonight, Dan, we are talking about a very special album indeed from 20 years ago, almost, Ash, Free All Angels. Do you love this album, Dan?
I love this album. It is the it is the quintessential sound of teenage life, and it goes through various musical styles. And one thing I'll say about Tim Wheeler is a songwriter who very much wears his influences on his sleeve, but in the best way. So when you're listening to this album, you hear the likes of the impact of the undertones coming through. You hear Weezer, you hear U2, you hear Billy Bragg. You even hear people like Dr. Dre sneaking in there through Tim Wheeler's musical style.
He brings all the influences to bear. I think it cast our minds back to the time then, almost 20 years ago, 23rd of April 2001, when they dropped Free All Angels. And to me, I mean, I've never quite let this album go because I've given it an airing every so often. You know, I've dusted it down and given it a listen. For me, it is the sound of a band. I mean, remember how young they were as well, 23 and 24. It is a sound of a band having an incredibly good time. I mean, if you could capture the bands and get the bands and stick it on a record, it's Free All Angels.
Yeah, absolutely. You can hear the youth and the vibrancy coming through.
Oh, yeah.
And this was an incredibly kind of positive time.
Yes, Dan, 2001. I mean, and I mean, you're absolutely right. I mean, the time is fascinating because these sort of times, they give birth to these albums, right? 2001, the Celtic Tiger in Ireland hadn't yet been born. Never mind roared, never mind died. 3 years after the Good Friday Agreement, you know, there was that, you know, this band come out of Northern Ireland, come out of County Down. So the road to Free All Angels, Dan, let's just recap for a second. The road to Free All Angels, it begins with Trailer, which is the mini album from Ash, which was, I think if I recall correctly, 3 singles and 4 B-sides. That was in 1994 when they were 17, right? They follow that up with 1977. And 1977 brings on Owen Morris as the producer. Owen Morris, who of course worked with Oasis, worked with The Verve, and this is your height of your Britpop era. And that produces Girl from Mars, it produces Oh Yeah, it produces a really solid album which tops the UK charts, and you know, it became it really exploded for them at that time. One of the things then that they did after that was, well, not one of the things, they did many things after that, of course, but they produced this album called Nuclear Sounds, Dan. And you remember, didn't sell quite as well, but some great tracks on that. I mean, Jesus Says, you know, lovely little track, lovely pop rock sound off it. But before, just on the road to Free All Angels, just as we get up to that period, things hadn't been going super well for Ash, Dan. Am I right in that? They were really up against it. Wasn't there a story that they were just about to run out of money?
Yeah, they said they were about £1,000 away from bankruptcy. And, you know, Tim, he was in a pretty negative space, I think it's fair to say. He moved back home with his parents to try and get inspiration for songwriting.
And that's the best thing to do, isn't it? Like, if you want inspiration.
It is. And what he did was, he tried to write a song a day rather than focusing on writing hits. So wrote loads and loads and loads of songs, but eventually he had enough songs to create the classic, which is Free All Angels. They recorded it on a shoestring. They recorded it. I think they recorded a lot of it pretty much themselves. They co-produced it. And I think I don't think you hear that actually. I don't think it sounds like a very raw album. I think it sounds like a very highly well produced album. So I mean, for me, they certainly came back with a vengeance.
You're listening to The Big Album Show with Paul and Dan. Please remember to subscribe, hit like, and remember to follow us on our social media platforms at The Big Album Show. I mean, it's a classic little album altogether. I mean, it's quite funny and humorous at times. There's a real vibrancy and brightness to it, right? I mean, when you look at the tracks, they kind of shine, don't they, Dan?
Yeah, well, if you look at the time it was recorded, as I was going to say earlier on, look at the kind of brightness that was out there. So, if you look at the top three selling albums in Ireland at the time, can you have any guess what they are? They're
Oh
probably a bit
God, I'm
out
under
there for
pressure
us.
now. We didn't rehearse any of this before, Dan. You're breaking the
I
rules.
know,
You're
I
not
know, I
allowed to
know.
ask questions like
I
that.
know, yeah, I know. No, I'll tell you what they
This
were, right?
podcast
I'll
is
save you. I'll
over.
save you. Well, we're going to be covering all of these albums on future episodes, I'd say.
Our partnership is being dissolved.
No, so number one, right?
Mm,
Britney by Britney Spears.
yeah,
Number two, Swing When You're Winning by Robbie Williams.
yeah.
And number three, World of Our Own by Westlife. So
Mm,
look, the charts were full of these pop hits, but the time itself, this was just pre 9/11. This was pre Wikipedia. Wikipedia was formed that year. You had
mm,
the iPod released for the first time. YouTube it wasn't in existence in many ways. And you mentioned the Celtic Tiger and so on earlier on. And
mm.
you just had the peace process. Kind of was relatively new. This was an innocent time to some extent, and other things were happening, like the euro coins became available in
Mm,
Ireland for the first time that year.
yeah.
So I think you can hear that vibrance, that enthusiasm coming through in the music to a great extent.
I think you're onto something, Dan. I think you're right. It's a very positive sound, right? Can I tell you, Dan, what I was doing back in the summer of 2001 when this album dropped? Well, it dropped in April 2001. The first single of it was "Shining Light," which Team Wheeler won a Ivor Novello Award for. Give that man an Ivor Novello Award, well deserved. That's the first single, right? And it brought them right back in the game. As you know, the sound of that song, there's a real confidence in it, right? And this is an album, there's a real confidence in these songs, and there's a
Mm,
big sound running right through it. I was what age was I? I was about 18 in 2001, and I remember very, very well. Would you believe my first listen of the album was in that summer when when I bought it, and
mm,
songs like "Burn Baby Burn," just a massive, massive hit single for him. That was the second single on the album. But I remember
mm,
hearing it for the first time, and it has a great video, big production, big bucks and everything going into those videos at the time. But it's
mm.
got this great start. It's like something being wound up. I'm not going to do the sound. You're better at the sounds. Do you want to do the sound? You know the
The
thing. You know the
sound.
sound at the start of the song.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
You do
yeah.
it there. You're good at the start
No,
there.
no, go ahead of
No,
that.
that's
I'm
this.
not doing that.
No, go on, do it. Go on. You have to do it now, or else it's going to be
No,
awkward in the pod.
no, 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 awkward. Toad talky Momo, isn't it?
But
No,
it kind of
oh,
goes.
look,
It
come
kind of. We'll
here,
do it
come
together
here.
if you want. It kind
No,
of
no,
goes.
you go it, you do it.
No, I'm certainly not doing it. But it sounds like something. It sounds like something being wound up. It goes. Anyway, it is just it also sounds a bit like a car ignition, you know. Anyway, look, it was a great tune, "Burn Baby Burn,"
And
second
you
single.
mentioned Shining Light as well there, Paul.
Yeah,
Would you believe, right? Infectious Records, that was the band's label. They didn't actually like the song initially. They thought it wouldn't be a hit. How wrong were they?
yeah.
But at the beginning, right? This is kind of
Goddamn
once
these
you
record companies. The record companies, son.
no, but once you hear this, man, right?
Goddamn those guys.
Once you hear this, you won't be able to forget it. Next time you listen to Shining Light, right?
Yeah,
Think of the Billy Bragg song, right? Milkman of Human Kindness.
yeah.
And you can definitely see the influence. The way the guitar starts off, very, very similar. Even the kind of melody is similar. But of course, Tim Wheeler adds that Ash magic
Yeah.
to it and just makes it his own. And the video was quite striking at the time. He's kind of in water,
Mm.
kind of
Oh
doing
yeah,
his
that's
thing.
deep, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah,
And
literally.
weren't they looking absolutely fantastic? In fairness,
They were, man.
how good did they look? How good do they still look? Ash are
Oh,
still going strong. Still,
and
still, yes.
can
Go for
can
it.
I just say, like how I don't mean to offend any of the lads here, and that's not what I mean. But I'll tell you, how did they look so well, given that they lived such a rock and roll lifestyle back in the day?
But I'd say though, Don, they were going to bed early on the tours.
Oh yeah, I'd
And
say. Oh,
they were taking a ham and cheesy, like, you know. That's why they've come out looking like a bunch of Buddhas after all this time. The album Free All Angels, Dan, a couple of things about it, right, that stand out for me, right? And you are, of course, the musical guru of the partnership that we have going on here. The band are Tim Wheeler, of course, playing guitar, but it was Rick McMurray. But tell us about the guitarist Charlotte, who joined them from the band Night Nurse. Is Charlotte Hart? I can't pronounce her name properly. Charlotte Hart Early, who joined from the band Night Nurse, because she brought a lot to the album in terms of the sound, didn't she?
Well, she absolutely did, because Ash, right? They were on after the first album, 1977. They went on tour with the band Weezer, the great American band. A lot of similarities in some way in terms of the style of music, that kind of happy teenage kind of guitar-driven music. They were a four-piece. Tim Wheeler and the guys thought to themselves, wouldn't it be great if we were a four-piece too? Of course, Nirvana as well, who heavily influenced the guys, turned into a four-piece as well towards the end of their career. So they wanted to be a four-piece, and Charlotte Hartley came along. She added an incredible amount to the band, in my view. You know, when you think of Free All Angels, for me, I think of the Burn Baby Burn video with Charlotte Hartley playing so well the various guitar pieces. You think of songs like Shark with her brilliant guitar solos in it, but you also think of her fantastic backing vocals, which really added to the Ash sound, you know?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and she of course later departed from the band, but she reunited with them, which I thought was cool. For the 10th anniversary tour, they did a tour, and she reunited with them. So that was all good.
Yeah, and she's I was watching an interview with her, and she says that her and Tim are really close friends still. And what's lovely is that
you love
to hear it. And he lives in New York, right?
Of course he lives in New York. I mean, you know, obviously, where else would he live? I mean, you don't even need to know. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And every time she plays a gig in New York, he goes along to show support. So I really love to hear that.
Absolutely,
because you know these bands breaking up, it can be rocky, but fair play to them.
And the other members, of course, Mark Hamilton, bass, great bass player, really vibrant on stage. Remember, he used to do all the jumping up and down. You know, he'd have the combats on, and he was always a great, fantastic live bassist, jumping up and down, doing his thing. And Rick McMurray on drums. Percussion
and Rick, we gotta say, Rick, fair play for liking our content on Twitter.
Absolutely, Rick.
Really appreciate it, buddy.
And a brilliant drummer. And I mean, I have seen Ash at least 3 times. I was at a festival where they played as well, but I missed them. Sorry, guys. But I've seen them a number of times. Each time, really good live band with a really dedicated fan following and a great connection between Ash and the audience when you see them live. I want to flip back to the album, Dan, because there, you know, we're both pretty enthusiastic about this album, as the listeners will know. We give our top 3 tracks, and then at the end we come back and we give it a mark out of 10. Do you want to go first on your top 3? Would that be a way to do this?
Why not?
Yeah.
Well, I'll give you my first. It's the first track on the album. We've already mentioned it, but it has to be mentioned. It's Walking Barefoot. What a way to start the album. For me, it is the most undertonesy sound on the album. You can see the influence there, and the thing that makes it poignant for me looking back now is, and we've already touched on this, the content of the song, it's about happy moments ending, like before they end, and trying to capture that sense of innocence, trying to capture those happy moments, singing about a summer. And I mean, if you're old enough to remember the summer of 2001, this album was the sound of the summer for indie kids like me and you, Paul. And that song, it just means so much to so many people.
Couldn't agree more. It's also my number 1, and not scheduled in before or in advance. Absolutely love the song. Love the intro, Dan, where he does this little thing where he takes an intake of breath. You know that bit? He goes,
yeah.
And he sings, you sing it there, Dan. No, we've overdone this, haven't we? He says,
I'm not paid enough, Paul, to sing these songs.
It's just a great way to start an album. He just takes a breath. And he's your beauty took my breath away and all day. I mean, it's just a great little start
Oh,
to an
yeah,
to
and
an
it's
album.
just like kind of the raw electric guitar sound before the rest of the band jumps in.
Yeah,
You just it sets the tone from the first breath, literally. You know,
absolutely.
it's
And the
incredible.
pounding of the drums and that uplifting bass and everything about that, lovely way to start an album. And I agree with you. It is my number one track. What's your number two, Dan?
Number two, right, would be now. It's again, it's so hard. It's so difficult. Can I? Oh no, I don't know what to say. I'm gonna go the number five, right, on the album, Cherry Bomb. Right. I tell you why. For me, it is a simple song. It is undoubtedly a pop song, but
Mm.
in a brilliant way. And for me, I hear an influence of it. This is a pretty, maybe it's a hot take. I hear
Oh
a
yes, a hot
song,
take.
right?
We're due a
Hot
hot take
take,
around
right?
about now,
Right.
anyway,
Hot
aren't
take,
we?
right? Do you know what song I think influenced Tim Wheeler here, right? And I think I'm going to say this: Tim Wheeler, for at least two of the songs on this album, is influenced by movie soundtracks, right?
Mm.
And this is one of the songs that I think he's influenced by a movie soundtrack. There was a film in 1996. It was like one of these teen films, and it was called That Thing You Do, right?
Mm.
And there was this fake band in the film called The Wonders, and they
Oh
sung a
yes,
song. Do you remember this? They
yes,
sung a
yes.
song called That Thing You Do, and it
Ah,
was kind of
yes,
like
I
this
know. Yes.
Beatlesque song, right? I
Mm.
reckon that this song is kind of it's highly influenced by that song, but with the added attitude and electric guitars and drums of Ash. I don't know whether they like me comparing it to that song of a fake
Mm.
band, but for me, it's just it has that kind of simple, Beatlesque kind of vibe that sticks in your memory. I love it.
Yeah, I mean, I hear you, Dan, but I don't agree. I mean, for me, right, the second best track on the album is "Burn Baby Burn,"
Mm,
and
mm.
great video, great energy. The song is just it's just cracking with this sort of the vibrancy of a band. I mean, when you think about it, they were so young, 23 or 24 they would have been, and like you know they just managed to capture something in those songs. There's also a huge amount of confidence or something in the song that I
Oh,
think
there
shines
is.
through. And it'll put you in good form. You listen to it. I remember when I first heard it, I was doing a job at the time as a kitchen porter, washing
Mm.
pots and washing plates and all that kind of thing. And I used to work away at that really hard, non-stop work. And I'd come home then and listen to the song, and I just remember it so clearly, that summer 2001, and it would give you energy to listen to that song, "Burn Baby Burn."
It certainly would, and I do you remember the video was filmed in a school gym,
Mm,
and that carried the energy as well. And when I in today's I started one of my hobbies is playing the guitar, right? And I started playing the guitar, I think in that Christmas, the Christmas before this album was released, and when that song came out, to see Tim Wheeler and Charlotte Hartley playing the guitar. I still remember the guitar Charlotte's playing in the video. I hope I don't just get this wrong, but I'm pretty sure it was a Gibson SG red guitar, and I just thought it was the coolest
yeah,
thing ever.
they look pretty goddamn cool. I mean, they still do look pretty cool, but they looked absolutely fantastic. I mean, you just cannot take that away from them. My third song, Dan, would be "Shining Light."
Mm.
I think it's just really well written, well crafted, just lovely put together. And you can still, anytime you hear it now, it gives you a bit of a lift, and just the way the way the chorus comes in, it's so sweet, it's so nice. Because I think what's not to like about that song.
Yeah, no, I'm going to pick a different one just to be controversial, although I do love Shining Light. Just before we finish on Shining Light, um, someone contacted me via social media
Mm,
when they saw we were doing this album, just to tell me a lovely story that they got the album for their 18th birthday,
mm,
and then years later they fell in love, and the album played a central role to their wedding because when the bride was walking down the aisle, they played the beautiful song "Shining Light," which is just another example of how much the songs mean to people.
That's a heartwarming moment, Dan, and thank you to that person for getting in touch, and thank you to everyone who gets in touch with us with all your little anecdotes and
Yeah,
stories.
we
We
can't get to
appreciate
everyone because there's so many
it.
people getting in
Yeah, but
touch.
we love to hear it. We love to hear it. It's great to
But
have you guys get in touch.
I'll tell you my number three, right, is Pacific Palisades. I can never pronounce that properly, but look, it's again, it kind of reminds me of walking barefoot and the kind of vibe of it. For me, it's like the love child of the Beach Boys and the Ramones. You have even Dennis Wilson from the Beach Boys is mentioned in the lyrics. uh, you can almost feel the sun off it. And apparently, when they originally put the song together, they were going to actually sample the Beach Boys and
Mm.
sample their music in the song. But they eventually realized that it was going to be problematic. A bit like the way we don't play music on the show here because it'd be problematic. They decided not to put music from the Beach Boys into
Yeah.
the track. But you can still hear the influence coming across in Pacific Palisades. I love it as well.
Yeah, another great song. You've got to give an honorable mention to something like "Someday."
Oh, yeah.
Really, really nice. I like, and again, still sounds lovely. Sounds it
Oh,
has
man.
it has stood the test of time.
It
Sometimes
is
as well,
gorgeous.
lovely song.
Yeah, the Someday was actually the second song that I was going to say sounds like it's kind of influenced by the kind of world of films or musicals.
Yeah,
You can almost imagine it's kind of like an escapist song. You could imagine it being central to a very strong musical or film. It's soft and sweet. It starts with acoustic guitars and strings, and then almost exactly 1 minute in, you have the electric guitars and the drums fill the soundscape. Um, and just it builds up. It's another incredible song. Like Tim Wheeler, let's just say it straight out, is a remarkable songwriter because it's very, very difficult to write songs that are incredibly pop but maintain their kind of indie rock vibe.
yes, I mean absolutely, Dan. And I've seen them a number of times live. And the first time I saw them live was in, would you believe, New Year's Eve in the Olympia Theatre, just on the turn of 2001, 2002. Um, and it was just a really, really good show in the Olympia, highly charged, a lot of fun, and they just delivered a great set and fair play to them. A number of years later, I saw them, would you believe, playing the UCD Freshers Ball.
Oh wow, that brings me back.
Yeah, it was 2005, and it was supposed to be held on campus, but by some trick or turn of events, it wasn't held on campus. And I will never forget the president of student union at the time had a big loud hailer, and he was telling everyone the gig is cancelled. You have to get on buses, and we were brought down to a club somewhere in Kildare, and it wasn't quite as good as the Olympia gig, but probably not all their fault. And then years later, I saw them play a kind of one of those sort of fake Oktoberfest festivals that they have
Mm,
in Dublin there in Grand Canal Way.
mm.
You pay like the only thing German about it is like the supposed German sausage, €10 please. But they played a gig there, and brilliant little show, great vibrancy, great interaction with the crowd. So good live band, and let's go and see them, Dan, when this madness ends
Oh,
and when they
definitely,
are back touring again. Actually,
definitely,
they were scheduled to do a bunch of gigs this year, but anyway, let's not even go there. Let's not
and
even go there.
Ash, just in case you're listening, we have no problem going along to the gig for free and covering the gig on our podcast. Just send the tickets our way. We'll do you that favor, no problem whatsoever. But tell me this, Paul. We kind of had a quick talk about this there during the week, and one of the things that came to mind, and I said, "Oh, Jesus, maybe I'm just getting old," was the fact that there seemed to be back then in 2001 around these gigs and so on a bit more of a drinking culture than there is now. Am I right or am I wrong?
Expand on that one, Dan, for me.
I'll tell you why. What I mean. I'll tell you why. So Ash themselves, they seem to be kind of there was this kind of drink associated, I would say, image on the back of some of the versions of the Free All Angels album. There's a picture of Tim Wheeler
Mm,
lying in a bathtub drinking a bottle of vodka, and on their album 1977 there's a hidden track called Sick Party on some of the versions
mm,
where it's the sound of the lads vomiting. Weird it is, but that's what it is. And I'm just wondering whether you know Was that more common then, or is that still going on now?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny you should say that. I mean, definitely when you look back on it, Ash were very much a good time band. They were very much a sort of band that you just love to go for a night out with on, or listen to it before you go out on the town. They're a good time band, so I get the association, Dan. I really really
Mm.
do. Um, I mean, it was probably the era before social media and so on, so people didn't mind making a holy show of themselves, So that might have explained some of that. But like they had it. They definitely had. They captured a little bit of the spirit of the times. Still going strong, absolutely. Still cracking out the music. They had a best of a number of years ago, of course. Um, what's that Alan Partridge said? What's your favorite Ash album? The best of Ash. But for me, Free All Angels is the best of Ash, and it gonna get from me a very positive, very big thumbs up. 8 out of 10. How about you, Dan?
I am gonna give it a 7.5, right? Because although I love it, and again, to be slightly controversial, for some reason I don't think it deserves the iconic status of Sinead O'Connor's second album or Out of Time by REM, but it is an incredible album. Just a quick random fact, right? So Jim Fitzpatrick, the artist who was responsible for the famous two-tone Che Guevara, was
Yeah.
involved in some of the album art for this album. You know the picture of the girl on the
Mm.
album cover, the kind of
Yeah.
cartoon. That's a Jim Fitzpatrick piece.
Yeah, and great cover. I mean, one thing about things about Ash is they were incredibly slick and good at marketing.
Mm,
There's absolutely no doubt about it. Still are. They had a very, very clear image,
mm.
not just the album covers, but also the music videos were tend to be really, really slick and really, really good. I mean, my favorite music video from Free All Angels is the one for Sometimes, which was shot in Cuba, and you'll get it
Mm.
on YouTube. Really, really well shot, lovely narrative, very good image. And it's one of the things. I mean, Ash were very, very. They were a cool guy. They were a cool band back. And still are cool, of course. But they had a really nice, popular image, well cultivated, and it was certainly something you could buy into, wasn't it, Dan?
Definitely. They were kind of bigger. Like it's hard to kind of realize how big they were because
Yeah, they were
as we
huge.
mentioned earlier on, this was kind of pre-social media. Indie music, rock music was much bigger than it is now, and they
Yeah,
were absolutely enormous. Free All Angels, an incredible, incredible album.
yeah,
Really, if people
absolutely.
haven't listened to it, go back and listen
Go
to
and
it
listen
and
to it.
enjoy it
Absolutely.
because it is certainly worth your time.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more with that, Dan. And I mean, it deserves a listen. It deserves a little place in music history. And I mean, Ash definitely they've written their name in the stars. I mean, of course, they've even got a music venue named after them, the Oh Yeah
Mm.
Centre in Belfast, named after the great Oh Yeah song from the album 1977. And just to say, if you're not familiar with Ash, right? Because obviously our big audience is not everyone is familiar with Ash, but check out some of some of those songs from 1977 today. You're really going to like them. I mean, there's a great version of Oh Yeah that Neil Hannon from the Divine Comedy does with Ash. You'll get it
Mm.
on YouTube. It was given away free with a hot press in
Oh,
the
I
late
remember. I
90s.
had
You remember
that
that?
one.
Yeah, yeah. That
Yeah,
was
yeah,
that
yeah.
little green
It
CD
was
was
great. Yeah,
yeah, it
man.
became a little collector's item, right? But
Yeah.
people loved it at the time, and it's so good, and it deserves an audience today. Give it a whirl; you're going to love it, and the sense of fun and optimism it just shines through. So go and give it a listen. Of course, Neil Hannon, I think, is great friends with the band. Dan.
Yeah, yeah. And can I just say, while we're talking about Neil Hannon, I was lucky enough one day to bump into Neil Hannon in
Mm.
Herbert Park in
What's he
Donnybrook,
like?
right?
What's he like,
He
Dan?
is, I have to say, he is the nicest man I have ever met. Like
Fair play
this
to
was
him.
probably about 10 years ago, and I was brazen enough to kind of go, "Oh, hi Neil, how's it going?" And he let me take a photograph with him, and he was just an absolute gentleman. So fair play, Neil Hannon, if you're
Fair
listening.
play. Yeah,
Thanks for the
another legend.
photo.
Another legend, and we might get through to some of his stuff on the big album show. Another fantastic artist of
Tell me this, Paul. Next week, what's the album or next in 2 weeks' time, what's the album we're covering?
Well, Dan, before we let our audience go, and just to say thank you to everybody, we really appreciate you guys listening in. And please, please, please like us and add us and at the Big Album Show on all social media, and give us a little follow and give us a little review and tell anybody you know. We really appreciate people's support, and thank you to the many friends of the show who do get in touch with their lovely comments and suggestions. The next album, Dan, that we are going to do, I think, is the score by the Fugees. Am I right on that?
You're 100% right, Paul.
I
Again,
am right.
you're right. That is, it's good, and it is the one. I tell you, man, like we said last week, and we really want people to get on board with this, right? Look at this like it's a big book club or something where we're listening to the music together.
Cool, except
we're
it's
discussing
cool.
it together.
Cool.
Yeah, man. Listen to Fugees The Score. Tell us what you think of it. Contact us on social media. Join the conversation, because the more hot takes we get before we record the show,
hot takes in.
Yeah, the better the show is going to be.
The Score by the Fugees, a huge album from 1996, so 25 years old. I'm right in that, 1996, Dan? 25 years old.
Spot on.
And we really look forward to hearing people's hot takes, as you say, and let us know what you think. And we'll even we might even read out people's names and so on and so forth if they come along. Dan, before we let our audience go one more time, have we got anything to say to our audience? Because I've got something to say to people.
Go on. What do you have?
I just want to say thank you to everybody for putting us up to the very positive position of 160 in the charts. We are 160 in the music charts on the podcast ratings, aren't we, Dan?
Yeah, we are. And
160.
like that, when
that was the highest of us.
Yeah, so we never expected to be chart toppers.
No, we did.
But
listen, as anyone who comes from the 90s knows, you once you enter the charts, you can go up. So you start off and then you go up. So 160th. Thanks to everyone for listening. Please continue to listen, and we'll get that up maybe to 158 or 159 next time, man. Thank you all very much.
Thanks, folks. Talk to you soon.
Talk to you soon.
You're listening to The Big Album Show with Paul Dillon and Dan O'Neill.